To Small Business South Africa out there, a very big welcome. Of course, to Mark Keating, the CEO of SalesGuru. Mark, it's an absolute privilege having you on board. Mark has joined us on sales survival, his business survival during COVID-19. But Mark, we've spoken of there many times. I've known you for many years. You've been a great ally with the NSBC. Sales is everything, as we do know. If you've got abundance of sales, cash will flow, and if cash flows, you can fix anything out there. So, but Mark, to get into today's session, we've done some research over the last few weeks, and to try and pick up topics that's really relevant right now in the marketplace. And Mark, research coming out now, new findings is that over 1 million personnel and staff and workers within a small business, Mark, will not get a paycheck at the end of April. What a tragedy, Mark. What is your take on that?
Yeah, Mike, and I think just a welcome from me to all of the delegates or participants on this webinar. It's a blessing to be part of this, and I hope really that I can give as much value through our short time here together. Raising that 1 million people are going to battle to get a salary, and that's in the small business. I think, it's across all businesses, from large enterprise and corporates, mid-sized businesses, down to the one-man business or one-person business and entrepreneurs. And really to address first the elephant in the room, this COVID-19, this coronavirus. And I'm certainly no viral expert and will never claim to be, or an economist. My speciality or area of expertise, I'd like to say, is within sales. But there's been massive change in the world. There's been massive change even in a short space of time here in South Africa. This is unprecedented that 49 years old on my side, I've sat through financial crises, recessions, downturns, but we've always had the ability to go back to work or be part of a work environment, not sitting in a lockdown. So initially, massive fear, and I think that's ruled the roost to start with, the fear about health, the fear about families. And since we started in this lockdown, that fear has moved very strongly into a range of businesses and sectors, whereby there's fear now about business survival. And not just business survival, there's fear from a lot of the people that are on this potential webinar about how this impacts them personally as either business owners, small, medium, large business owners, directors, or employees. And this lockdown, I think, is a massive part of that, because the longer we are in lockdown, the bigger the uncertainty and business challenge becomes, even over and above this terrible thing around health. And I think that the big challenge around that is we're in an unknown. Nobody knows in regards to when this is going to come right 100%. I'm certainly not a doom mongerer. I'm hugely optimistic and positive, but I've also got to be real. So my time today is also to share the real truth. And, where things start to change is within hope, and I'll come onto that shortly. But just to share a little bit from what we were chatting about, Mike, I've certainly had a lot of companies, MDs, sales directors, salespeople reach out to myself and my business in the last 2 weeks. And for many businesses, they're scrambling out there. They're looking at ways to reduce costs, extend business, business survival. We've got other companies dependent on what industry you're in, the travel, the tourism, the hospitality, restaurants, and so many other businesses that they've come to a grinding halt from a revenue perspective. So I've also got other companies that are doing okay in this time, and the few that seem to be doing very well, dependent on what it is that you are offering out there. I think that the nice to haves are gone. I think the must haves for the short term is an essential, and I'll come into that a little bit later. But people have certainly gone back to that fundamental of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Without going into in-depth, we're talking around food, safety, security, ensuring that we've got survival. And I think the difference, though, is what is the mindset that we've got, both myself, you, and these people listening and businesses, as to where we are right now and the impact that it's going to have coming up. I know that you were chatting with me before we started about this massive challenge about retrenchments, and to your point, 1 million people losing their jobs. It is horrendous, and as much as many of us on this webinar are having some challenging time, I often say that our bad days are the dreams of so many other people. And some companies have no alternative but to close down at the moment. They've been living hand to mouth or week to week. They just don't have the resource. Other companies are having to restructure completely these people that are retrenching. And I think it's a massive point there, Mike, that prior to retrenching your sales force, and I'm speaking to salespeople here today, is the only thing that gets us out of this is going to be income from sales. That is the lifeline, the pipeline of business. So think long and hard if you're a business owner, head of sales, in regards to retrenchments. There are alternatives. And salespeople, some of you don't like this when I talk around lowering basics, heightening commission. But if you're sitting in the position whereby that is the only alternative but to keep our job, if you're in that challenging space right now, that's an area. But certainly, Mike, a massive concern out there in the marketplace. And back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, it is a way of doing things differently, trying new things, adapting, remaining positive, and being calm. The storm will over soon. But just to answer a little bit of feedback here, Mark, I can just assist our attendees out there. Yes, we do know that the concern is that there's a limited capacity in the room, and I'll tell you why. Our technology partners in California are going through a crisis, as we all know, well, it's a global crisis, and they haven't been able to expand our room size up until the next 1 or 2 days. But what is important to our delegates out there, straight after this webinar, there will be a recording sent to you, and Mark has also once again donated his time exactly 2 weeks from here to do exactly the same type of webinar with some difference, with some feedback. So after this, we will ask you for some feedback, and Mark and I will put that together and continue this conversation in an upcoming webinar, of course, in 2 weeks' time to follow on from this. So for those of you out there and your colleagues and your clients or customers and suppliers who haven't been able to enter the room, please don't despair. It will be available immediately after this webinar and again in 2 weeks' time. So my apologies for that, and thank you for standing with us. But Mark, if you look back in history, possibly the biggest crisis outside of COVID-19 was the Second World War. And what we do know is that millions of small businesses went out of small business during the war. What was amazing, immediately post-World War II, thousands and hundreds of thousands of these mercurial business owners and entrepreneurs came out of that starting block with absolute passion and vigor to start again and rebuild. From a sales perspective, what is your take on that, Mark?
Well, I think you made a hugely valid point there, Mike. And amongst all this doom and gloom, and I'm going to jump ahead on some content I wanted to share, but we've got so much negativity in the news. There's so much negativity on WhatsApp groups. There's so much negativity on people phoning each other that because we're in an unknown, people are looking at the worst case scenarios too often, I believe. And I think that there's a huge point that this too shall pass. And I want to reiterate this. This too shall pass. How long is the unknown? And I'm talking in South African context to the lockdown right now. And there's talk about maybe it gets extended or not. That's way above my pay grade. And the people making these decisions are a lot closer in regards to the rationale and the real big reasons behind this. But this will pass. That old saying that the night is darkest before the dawn has never been truer. But I believe that there are very, very important things that we need to be focusing on in this time to ensure that we're utilizing this time to the best of the ability, regardless of your personal circumstance. If you're doing okay, if you're a little bit challenged, or if you're having a terrible time right now, the one thing that you have within your control right now is your choice on your mindset, your choice on the time and what it is you can do. So using your World War II connotation, that when this thing finishes, that we can bounce back as fast as possible in whatever realm that we can get involved in as possible. Mike, and back to you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mark. It is, there is, that thought coming out. There is that time that this will end, and there will be positivity and a big opportunity out there. Because, our feeling is that there will be a big boost for small business when this is all over. But as you say, we don't know how long this is going to last for. Mark, the day before COVID-19 lockdown, we did the COVID-19 National Small Business Survey. And the findings that came out of that are, of course, are alarming. Just over 90% of small businesses have much fewer sales and almost no sales, with a complete reduction of almost 85% in cash flow. Mark, I know you've touched on this a little bit in your last two points, but can you give us more into that, because it is so important?
Doing my best. I know our tech means I'm losing you every now and again, but if I heard the question right, is the challenge even pre-COVID-19, small biz, and I'm going to expand, small, medium, and large business had a range of challenges. And I think the challenge pre-existing and post-COVID-19, there are things that have a massive impact in regards to your level of success. And I think now more than ever is the time to stand up as a sales professional, as a small business owner, as a sales manager, leader, director. And, you know, your question, what's the answer to this? In short, not to demotivate, but there is no magic wand. I think that the fundamentals of sales success, related to sales and business success, have not changed pre, during, and post COVID-19. And we use the analogy often in SalesGuru for the last 15 years. It relates back to a sales DNA. And I think that the three biggest areas to focus on for the remainder of this talk is really around the foundation is the mindset, linked to what your plan is of what you are using your time with daily and the activities that you're spending your time on. And then the skills relevant to that you have and that you can upgrade will have a huge impact. And the strength on each of that determines your results at the moment to a large extent. And it's about raising your individual and your business standards around the mindset, plan, activity, and skills relevant to sales, because sales is income. And if we don't get that right, everything else in a business, in my opinion, becomes irrelevant without the income. Does that answer the question, Mike?
100%, Mark. And just a bit of feedback from Cole September out there. Thank you, Cole. He's saying, taking control of your situation and accepting the thing we cannot change. And that's so true, Mark.
Yes, I absolutely. You know, staying in control of what you can and can't change. And I'm going to add on to that, Mike, if you allow me to elaborate a bit, because I think sharing the sales DNA is so important with the people listening to this. When I said at the foundation of everything, and we've always proclaimed this at SalesGuru, it's your mindset. And it's the one thing that you've got in your control right now is how you are choosing your mindset during this crisis, how you choose it yesterday or chose it yesterday, what your choice is today, and what your choice is tomorrow, and through this lockdown, how we extend it from there. And, you know, I've always said, well, there are only really two types of mindsets. Either you are positive or negative. Zig Ziglar, one of the forefathers of effective sales development, personal development, had a great saying. He said, having a positive mindset doesn't do anything, but it does everything better than having a negative mindset will achieve. And I think if I revert back to that, what defines your mindset is what you are choosing to feed your mind with right now. There is doom and gloom. There are these naysayers and people talking around how this is the end of business. The end of some businesses. But you have control in regards to what you're going to feed your mind with and what's going to grow from there. And I think a really important thing around this, in this time of so much demotivation, self-motivation has never been more important to start pouring and filling the tank. And I think a huge component of this is understanding as a sales role, as a role in regards to what you do. Is this so important right now? Absolutely, but it defines back to what your role is to help people to be better off around what you offer or what you provide, especially during this time. And some people can buy right now, others not right now, and others as we move forward. But we've got to look at this. It's not to just go and sell, it's to help others to be better off. And I think it's your duty, if you're in sales, to lead by example. It's your duty in regards to showing that sales is the forefront of business and pushing that on and understanding that from your mindset. Does that expand a bit, Mike?
Yes, absolutely, Mark. A little bit more feedback from Roxanne Clark. How are we able to sell right now if the market isn't engaging. What is your take on that, Mark?
If you can just repeat, sorry, how are you able to sell right now if the market is not?
The market isn't engaged, is not engaging.
So a huge question, and I think I'm getting asked that often, where people are saying, you know, should I be selling right now? People are in dire straits. Should I be prospecting? My simple answer is 100% yes. And it's not just because I believe in most cases that's what you are paid to do. That's your obligation to your business. There are a couple of things that I want to expand on this point quickly, Mike. Number one thing, and I was chatting with someone that we've been working with in Cape Town earlier this morning, and he raised the point that we scream from the banners here, your pipeline is your lifeline. And for a lot of people, that pipeline has been decimated, either through cancellations, but a lot of postponements at the moment. So should I be prospecting right now if I answer that first? 100% yes. But if you are prospecting with a hard sell, if you are prospecting on something that is non-mission critical and trying to push your priority, absolutely not. Your priority is not your prospects or your customers' priorities. I believe that you should be prospecting to build a pipeline, but you are prospecting simply by this. I'm going to look at what my product offerings are. What have we got? I'm going to define that in regards to what have we got that would be essential, that potentially people would be interested in, that can help them to be better off right now. And I need to reevaluate the messaging that I've got to make it relevant to the current circumstances. I've then got to look at within my prospect or existing base, who has the ability to buy from me right now that would be a right fit. If you are prospecting to restaurants or the travel industry, you're going to have a challenge. I'm going to look at my non-essential products and services and people that aren't in a position to buy from me. That's not going to be my priority. So prospecting, building pipeline, engaging 100%. Engaging with existing customers as well as prospect. My first thing that I'm doing when I am communicating, and that's the most important thing, communicate, communicate, communicate. In a sea of quietness, your voice can be heard and be remembered more than the majority of your competitors. There has never been a better choice. I was chatting to a buyer about an hour and a half ago for his insights and takes. And he said he's actually welcoming the engagement because it gives them something to do. They're also not doing a lot at the moment. And if I'm calling with empathy. I'm calling to show that I care. I'm asking, I was thinking about you and your family. How are you doing during this time? How has the effect been in your business? I know we were discussing or looking to discuss some ways around this. What is your feeling? Engage, prospect, and be part of the sales process. The alternative is you come back at the end of this lockdown. You've treated this like a December holiday, and it takes you 3 weeks to get up and running. I'm sorry, but you and potentially your business are going to face the biggest challenge of all time if you don't use this time wisely. Back to you, Mike.
And a bit more feedback, Mark, from Cindy Whitmore. Your pipeline is your lifeline.
Yes, Mike, I lost the question.
From Cindy Whitmore, she makes a statement, your pipeline is your lifeline.
And I'm not sure if you want me to expand a little bit on that pipeline is your lifeline, 100%. And if I'm going back pre-COVID-19, I used to look at a lot of sales pipelines of people. And I think a great point there, Mike, is if I want to see the potential of someone's sales success. So let me reach out to business owners, small business owners. You're looking at your own sales pipeline, sales managers, directors, looking at your team's pipeline. And if I'm sitting in the event of a salesperson, you want to look at your pipeline. 3 things to look at. Number 1, let me see my pipeline for the next 30, 60, 90 days. That's changed in a lot of cases. I'm going to recommend that you are brutal with your pipeline, that you reevaluate and have reconnected with everyone in your pipeline to ascertain, do they believe they still have a need? Re-ascertain and define what is the value to that need, and is that value right now urgent? In other words, is it something that they need to do now, or what are the timelines potentially as to where it fits in? Because everyone has their own business challenges to a degree. But don't be negative and assume that everyone is in the same position. There are companies that have the requirement right now. Decision-making process, I want to understand. I've chatted price versus value, and we've agreed next steps. Reevaluate your pipeline. You have to build your pipeline. Next thing, Mike, if you'll allow me. The first thing that I see then, if people are struggling with pipeline, I look at how full is your diary been for the last 30 days and the next 2 weeks in advance. And what I mean is, you can't necessarily right now and for the foreseeable future go and see people. We know this. But how much time are you dedicating in regards to setting up meetings or arranging a calendar or a Zoom call or a telephone call to ensure that you are connecting? And the last thing, to build pipeline, sustain and build pipeline in this time, how much time are you spending prospecting? There's this big talk out there in the marketplace on the doomsdays. Don't prospect now, you're going to upset and piss people off, excuse my language. Absolutely not. You will if you're going with a hardcore sell. You will if you're sending LinkedIn messages that I'm getting, that's all just a sales vomit and pitch straight at me. You can build it up if you're phoning in regards to a position of value. I'm thinking about you. A lot of companies we're engaging with in this time of crisis and challenge have a priority to look at X, Y, and Z. Is that something you'd consider? So all three of those depends on ensuring your pipeline is starting to build and stay strong. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, just to give further insight to our attendees and inform them, we had over 4,000 registered attendees, something that Mark and I never imagined. And of course, with our techno partners in the US, they've ensured us that we're going to expand the room to almost up to 10,000 delegates. So to your, because Mark, many of these attendees now in the room, many of their colleagues, and as I said before, haven't been able to get into the room. Please don't despair. We've taken the problem. This crisis is all over the world, and we will solve this problem. So on the next take, we will have a full capacity. So Mark, for many, as you said, for many businesses, they're not able to see their customers, either the business owner or, of course, their sales staff. How do you keep your salespeople busy right now, if that is the case?
So Mike, again, a very good question. If you allow me to expand on it, just something I really feel is important to add into that before I give the answer. Pre-COVID-19, there's a big part that we were playing both in teams and individuals and coaching and getting them to increase their personal desire and drive to do more than just the minimum disease, the least I need to do just to get by. I believe where we sit right now currently with people worried about their jobs and income and making it through this effectively, and it's not doom and gloom, if I or your company or your manager has to try and motivate you to get the desire and drive to do what you need to do, you're in the wrong position and you're going to struggle on this. I think that everyone now understands nobody's got to motivate you. You've got to motivate yourself and ensure that you're going to get busy and really drive hard. Our goals have changed. That overseas trip or brand new car in the next 3 months, that could well be changed to ensuring that I get income, keep my job, drive, and that my biz and what we do comes out of this. And again, that's not for all companies, but it is a big concern in Sales South Africa. So how do we do this? Firstly, what else is in your control is how you spend your day. What is it that we're going to be using our time? I've seen some people are treating this almost like a holiday, and we're going from the normal 8 hours in a day to working maybe half an hour and spending time on WhatsApp, YouTube, videos, and TV. First thing, I'm seeing a lot of top sales professionals that I'm engaged with right now. We have a strategy on what we need to spend our time on doing. And what I mean by strategy, starting point, customer retention. Existing customers that you've got, that I've reached out or am reaching out to every single one of them and ensuring that they feel that I care, that I have their interests at heart and wanting to communicate. They want to hear your voice by and large, and I build that into an ongoing daily basis to keep in touch. Not every day, but you make it relevant, obviously. And that really is in regards to ensuring that you have the interest in getting through this and being able to also understand from a business perspective, what is the potential pipeline from that. Another point on spending your time, Mike, some of your customers might be looking to cancel or postpone right now or reduce. Please have a thought process on what you can do when these things are raised. Can you extend payment terms? Are there other offers? Don't sit with a mouthful of teeth. The other thing you can do then is keeping busy on that prospecting list and you have got great resources to finally spend time on increasing your prospecting list and reaching out to at least 10, 15 people a day, whatever that number is. Look on Google, look online. A fantastic resource is Matrix Marketing. They are able to supply you with databases. They can list it down to email addresses, LinkedIn, phone numbers by industry. Just giving him a shout out. I know they're a member of yours, Stuart at matrixmarketing.co.za. They have some amazing opportunities now that can assist you with information to actually grow your sales pipeline. Mike, so it's really about not being idle. Idle minds create negativity, and negativity creates more negativity. Keep yourself busy, block 30 to 45-minute time increments, take a 5-10 minute break afterwards. It is a very different work environment working just by yourself in isolation. Other few points before I head back to you. I'm treating this, and I think a lot of people that are pushing through this time, like a normal work day. I did try and work 1 or 2 days in a shorts and a t-shirt. Didn't have the same feeling. I might be in a pair of jeans, but I've got a smart work shirt on. It gets me into the zone. I also have an eating plan, because if I don't, I'm going to eat like every hour and I'm going to pick up 10 kilograms. But how you spend your time and getting busy in this time will have the biggest impact at the end of this and getting through. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Mark. Yes. While I'm looking around a lot is I'm looking at feedback and I'm trying to answer some questions out there. So my apologies if I'm waving a bit. But a bit more feedback is, Mark, what do sales teams say to their prospects and customers right now?
Well, I don't know exactly how to define, but because of the question. But if the question is, what should sales teams say to their prospects and customers right now? I alluded to this a little bit earlier. Let me do the customers first. Communicate. If you're not and your competitors are, you've got the potential to lose them. Make them feel that you genuinely care about them, and it's not just a call about revenue and business and for yourself and your company. Your priorities are not necessarily their priorities right now. Your customers are going through the same challenges that many of you and your businesses are going through. And their concern is what's happening to their customers. So what I'm wanting to do, and again, that often used term in this time is empathy. Garrison Wynn, a great speaker I follow in the States, said, how do you build trust? Now is the moment to build additional trust. Competency is how can you help? What can you do? What's your products? But the definition to build trust initially is compassion and care. How are they doing? I was thinking about you and your family. And you'll find that you can, for the first time, actually have a little bit more in-depth conversations. People have got time. What are you saying to them is you're not there to try and sell and push something. If I have something that I believe could be of value, again, I can say, I was thinking about you, how are things going? And, I've been chatting to several other clients that are facing similar challenges. And when I was chatting to them, the one thing that they we're potentially looking at is X, Y, and Z. Is that something that you believe could also be a fit for you right now? And if not, can we expand a bit? Get into a conversation. Selling is conversing. Selling isn't trying to push something. Just to finish, Mike, if I'm talking around prospecting, if I'm phoning you with what I know is not a must-have right now, it's a pure nice-to-have, I'd better be very conscious about what my messaging is. Because if I feel you're just trying to push something and I'm a new prospect, I'm dead. If I can script something through, and I'm trying to use an analogy, SalesGuru, one of the things we do is help people get their prospects in front of more customers. That is a must-have right now. If I'm defining something around, I'm just trying to think, because a lot of stuff we've got is quite topical. If I'm a florist right now, my opportunity in phoning businesses to get them to sign up to go and deliver flowers over the next month is going to be null and void. But what I can do is expand the pipeline. What I can do is look at a range of other companies that I can reach out to in some message, purely thinking of you and your company over this time. I would love the opportunity to engage once the lockdown is finished and see where you and your business stand. That's a bit weakish, but prospecting, look at what you offer, look at your messaging. It has to be something of value, but build your pipeline. Back to you, Mike.
Right, Mark. Mark, just some feedback from Bonga Musa. She's saying that under these circumstances, can a telephone call be replaced by an email?
Mike, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that. If I got it, should you be calling or emailing? Did I hear correctly?
Can a normal telephone call be replaced by an email?
So if I heard correctly, would a normal telephone call be replaced by an email? And thanks so much for the question. Pre-COVID-19, still the most underused sales tool in the last 20 years is the telephone. Social media and email seems to have replaced most, because the only way you get rejected, they simply don't respond or they remove you as a connection. I believe there's never been a better time for someone to hear someone's voice. All of us, well, I'm generalizing, the majority of us are actually missing social contact, social connections during this lockdown. I think to hear someone's voice is hugely important. The challenge is, because we haven't been doing enough of it, the skill of too many people on using the phone effectively is lacking. You don't have to be an expert right now. Reach out and say, I was thinking about you. Well, slightly different. If it's a cold prospect, have something of value. The reason I'm giving you a ring in this tough time, I've got a quick question for you, and your question is relevant to the outcome of what you can do and help. So the phone, number one, the email second. Tony Hughes in Australia, great sales trainer, says combo prospecting. Use the phone, email, LinkedIn. Use it all in combination, but make sure your voice is being heard. Don't discriminate against the telephone. It has made more people in sales successful than any other tool, and bankrupted more people than any other tool that don't use it. Back to you, Mike.
Great, thank you, Mark. Mark, at this time, how can SMEs prepare for the future?
Great question, and again, I'm going to expand that to mid and large businesses. How do we prepare for the future? I look very, very quickly in regards to my forecast and what's in my pipeline right now. I protect that with every single thing that I can possibly do. A lot of business, let's be real here, has been postponed. Not necessarily cancelled, depends on what type of industry you're in. I've got to look at my cash flow, which finance are playing a major role in businesses right now, looking at the cash flow and projections over the next 30, 60, 90, 120 days. What I can do and what's in my control is ensure that I keep my customers loyal. Number one priority, customer loyalty. Number two, build a prospecting pipeline and reach out and build and get ready and have your voice heard over and above that right now. Unfortunately, it's real world. As an SME, I've got to be looking at where can I reduce my costs wherever possible. Please do not treat sales glibly. Be fair and look at it very strongly, because when we start to come out of it, your sales is the impact to drive forward. But what I am going to do, Mike, in closing, I'm going to keep my sales team busy. If I'm running more than just myself, ideally a 10-minute meeting with my salespeople, Zoom or in touch daily. I want to agree minimal acceptable standards with all of my salespeople right now. How many prospecting calls or adding onto a base are we doing daily? Who are the customers? Let's review this every day and keep our activity up above anything else. And those are just a few base points. And use our time. If we're not ticking all of those boxes, guys, we're in a huge problem. And compare yourself when this is over. Not every business will survive. Not every salesperson will survive. But give yourself the strongest choice by working harder than those that are choosing to work easier in this period. Back to you.
Thank you, Mark. A big question we get is right now, the big focus is, as we know, is of course, customer service and customer retention. Do you have any ideas for our business owners and our sales teams out there on ways they can really elevate this to retain and drive customer service better than ever before?
Cool. Mike, again, my apologies. The connection's not great, but if I heard it was around customer service and customer retention, what can we do to drive this? And if that is, that's such a great question, because there's so many things that I think both me personally, our business SalesGuru, and virtually everyone listening to this, and you and your businesses had on a wish list, a to-do list that we've never got round to doing in this, pre this time that we've got more of right now. And I love the story. I think I might have heard it initially from Rich Mulholland many years ago, that if you look at it, the difference between just customer satisfaction or losing them and customer loyalty, retaining and being referred, is based to a large degree on the level of service that they get. If we're a 3-star hotel and we deliver 3-star service, or 4 and 4, 5 and 5, that's called satisfaction. I've done the minimum entry level and expectation to satisfy a customer. But those customers can still leave and go anywhere else, even if there's a slightly cheaper price. If I'm a 4-star hotel and we deliver 3-star service, trust me, I'm potentially going to lose those customers, and they don't tell us they go somewhere else. They just take their money. But if you're a 3-star brand, and nothing wrong, all companies are different, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star brand, now's the time as a collective, or as management, or as a small business owner, or as a salesperson, how can I, my team, or my company ensure that we are delivering more than just what's expected? How do I create a 6-star around a 5-star brand? And working again, what's within your control right now? What's in your control? Communication, engagement, empathy, and above anything else, what do we do as sales? We're constantly looking to how we can help our customers and prospects to be better off around their core objectives, wants, needs, and objectives than where they are currently. Couple all that together and strategize on one key thing a week. I think you start to move forward in this time. Back to you, Mike.
Great, Mark. A great question from Tammy Evans. She asks, how much time should the sales team spend on prospecting and connecting with clients every day? Potential clients, my apologies. Connecting with potential clients every day.
Mike, my apologies. I really am hearing every second word on you right now. So could I ask you just to repeat that one last time and see if I can hear it?
Yes. How much time should the sales team spend on prospecting and connecting with potential clients each day?
So great question. How much time should we be spending on prospecting and connecting to clients? Let me go pre-COVID-19. A lot of companies that we've got involved and trained, whereby their number one role is to fill their diary and engage with as many people, because without the diaries filled, we don't engage. Without that happening, we don't build sales pipeline. You would be amazed that the majority of people in sales, and I'm generalizing because I'm all about Sales South Africa and professionalizing it, I'm on the salespeople side, spend less than 4 to 1 phone calls a day looking for new potential business. In my opinion, it is the number one thing that we have to do to build pipeline right now. How many? As many as you can possibly do, but being realistic. If someone's used to making 2 calls a day, why don't we put in place a minimal acceptable standard? Guys, I want you all reaching out and finding 10 prospects a day, and let's run this for the next 5 days and give an update daily, and let's create some fun and excitement around this. Huge point though, Mike. You will get more no's during this period. And a no is not rejection. It means they are objecting to the value and the timing right now, but you are still creating engagement. And you have to get to the no's to get to the potential yeses. And it's not just blasé, it's a numbers game. It is a numbers game, has been, is, and always will be, but set a minimal acceptable standard. Look in regards to creating some fun and activity. And if you can do 10 calls a day for the next 2 weeks, we're talking in the region of 100 new potential prospects. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you for that, Mark. Here's a tough one for you, Mark. When will sales pick up again?
Great question. So when will sales pick up again? Some industries, and please, I'm not pumping our tires. In some cases, well, SalesGuru, I sit in the same boat as many people on this phone call. 90% of our business had been postponed within the first 5 days of the lockdown happening. In the last 4 days, we've picked up dramatically with a lot of companies we've been engaging with and moved stuff into online. But we're in the rarity. Not everyone can do online right now. So when will sales pick up again? Depends on what your industry is, depends on what you offer, depends on the nice to have versus must have. But I think if I combine all of that together, I think it will pick up as soon as we start to deliver hope. And when will hope happen in South Africa? Again, I'm not an expert, but I believe personally, when we hear that lockdown has come to an end, we have hope. We get back to work. When will real massive hope come? Either through the form of a vaccine, we flatten the curve. And what I've certainly been reading and seeing, I think even if there's some form of medication that can, when people get coronavirus or COVID-19, it means you completely minimize the risk with a faster recovery. Hope trumps everything. And this is a massive point. We have to keep hope up, but sales can still happen to a small degree now, depending on the industry, but we have to put the effort in that when we suddenly get the hope, you're in the strongest possible position. Back to you, Mike.
Yeah, Mark, from Zenzo, they asked, how do I keep my team motivated? Because I'm afraid I might just lose them.
So again, apologies on the connection. If the question is, how do I keep my team motivated? I'm afraid I might lose them. I think honest and open communication is now more important now than ever before. Not just communication with customers we spoke around, but with your team. Let's share how everyone's currently feeling right now. What are the real world concerns? Let's address the elephant in the room. Let's talk what is within our control. Business owners, be open with them that, as to where things stand and what your expectation is of them. Understand what's their expectation of you. And I think the end result is, if it's keeping my team inspired, agreeing what we can all do to ensure that we can be collectively and individually in the strongest position. I mean, I would, if I'm having a 10-minute Zoom call with the sales team every day, I'm going to assign one of them a day to give me 2 minutes of motivation. Google it, find it, look at a YouTube video. Let's keep ourselves being pushed forward as opposed to being pulled back. And please, again, harnessing that point I spoke around earlier, please be conscious about what you're feeding your mind with during this time, because that's a choice. And whatever you feed is going to grow. And the last point is, I don't quote too many people, but Henry Ford had this fantastic saying, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're 100% correct. And I add my kind of Markism into that. Whether you think you can or can't, you're 100% correct, and you will find every reason to support your decision. Whether you think you can strengthen your individual and business position around sales in this time and be in a position to take advantage, even if the sales are less, but be stronger in this time, you can, and you can find every reason to support that and get off your ass and do something about it. If you think you can't and it's doom and gloom, trust me, there are a million reasons why not to. But you decide the choice that you feed, and you decide the choice that you get out the back of it too. Back to you, Mike.
Well, as Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going. It's tough for all of us. But Mark, look, I think our time is out, and if I can ask you, if you can give all our attendees that closing message, that final thought, and then after that, if you don't mind, just giving our attendees an insight into SalesGuru. I think it's an important aspect right now, and I know you've got a lot to offer.
Perfect. And please, my apologies first. I haven't had time to look through all of the comments. I'm going to be chatting with Mike to look through a lot of the answers. My email address is mark, M-A-R-K, at SalesGuru, SalesGuru.co.za. Send me your questions. I can't respond immediately. We are busy with a lot of online coaching and online classroom deliveries, but I will do my best to get back to every single one that emails me with your biggest sales question or information. Please, there's no cost. Drop me. I'm really, as Mike is and my company is and his company, about adding value in this time. I think let me share just quickly on the SalesGuru, and then I want to share a point to close off on. In this time, we've got things that we're helping companies and individuals with. We've got a 2-day, it's a much shorter than full day public sales program happening next week, and we've got some other things happening. We've reduced the cost substantially to deliver it live in classroom style. If you're interested, email one of my partners, Brett at SalesGuru, BRETT at salesguru.co.za. He'll furnish the info. We're working a lot with companies in sales management and leadership teams. We're driving process, systems, accountability, motivation to drive high performance. We're driving prospecting. We've got a lot of programs. If you're interested, reach out to us. We'll help wherever we possibly can. And if we're not a fit, let me share some information, please. That's our role. And in closing, Mike, I'd love to tell a story. I'm modeling a story. I can't remember years ago where it's from, but I think it's a nice way to close. Several years ago in the South Pole, a whole lot of penguins had an annual penguin conference. And they all got together, and it was negative, demotivating. They said, we've got the worst ever lives. It's freezing cold. We've got nothing to do. We've got wings. We can't even fly. How bad are our lives? And you can understand the context. And one of them said, well, why don't I get hold of an inspirational speaker or somebody that can come and help us with something to really motivate and inspire us? So they did a little bit of research, and they found someone that claimed that he could help to make penguins fly, that he's actually made pigs fly and cows fly, and they thought, this is too good to be true. And the one motivated penguin, let's call him Mike for the sake of this, reached out to this guy, and they flew him out to the South Pole. He arrived, and he stood up and said, I've got one objective: to ensure I can help you to fly in these challenging times. And a lot of them looked at him and said, you've got to be kidding. That'll never happen, because that's what they believed. And he said, what we're going to spend our time with is the first part of this day we're going to do all about mindset and belief, because that's your choice, and whatever you believe drives your actions, and your actions drive your results. So they did about the belief of flying, and then they had a break and came back, and there were a whole lot of little step ladders with 5 steps to it. And he said, penguins, get on the first level, and when I say fly, jump off and fly. And he said this, and they all fell on the ground. And over the next 45 minutes, he had them going up 1 step at a time, and they were all falling off still. And they were bleeding from a little bit on beaks. They were bloody. They were bruised. And the negativity crept in. This will never, ever work. We can't get through this. Until they were on the top rung, and Mike, the positive penguin, suddenly hopped off, and he started to fly. All the penguins watched Mike fly. And they got on top, jumped off, and started to fly, because now they could believe it. They didn't give the trainer a standing ovation. They gave him a flyby, loop-the-loop ovation. And it was amazing. And then they all landed and walked home. My final message is, I'm just sharing a couple of points. Mike is, there's so much resource, Google, LinkedIn. Mike's got another great guest next week. Reach out and look for things to help you fly during this crisis and unprecedented time we're in. Or choose that you simply continue to walk. But my hope is nobody continues to walk, because all of us have so much greater potential, and especially talking to Sales South Africa, I want the best for all of you. Mike, thanks to you and your team for allowing me the opportunity. Again, Mark at SalesGuru, reach out with any questions, and thanks again.
Mark, as always, we're really grateful. I know our attendees are expressing enormous gratitude. You're an absolute legend. And we know that in 2 weeks' time, you're coming back, and we're going to look at all the questions. We're going to bring back more answers, and we're going to give more insight. So, guys, in 2 weeks' time. But as you said, every Wednesday at 11:30, we do this. We bring on the world's greatest top-line speakers. And next week, we've got another legend. We all know him pretty well, Mark and I and other people, Gavin Sharples. He's also donated his time graciously. And here again, all the top people are starting to help others, or they always have helped others, but they're really giving a great deal. So we can make a big difference out there to keep the sales teams there, to keep those sales coming in, and take this time now to learn. So when, of course, the storm is over, we can really come back with a big drive and go. So Mark, have a wonderful day, and thank you very much for that. And for all our guests out there, guys, if you want to take a look to see what's coming up next Wednesday, you can go to www.thebizshow.africa. You can register there. We will have capacity of over 6,000 or 7,000, so you will be able to get your guaranteed seat. So once again, I profusely apologize. It's just completely out of our hands. So Mark, have a good one, and take good care of yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Come on.